everyone, and welcome to the American Scouser Podcast. Monday nights, back in action, same time, same place. Still no freaking Bickler on these work trips and stuff. He moved from under the bridge and has become like an important businessman. Or so he tells us, Gally. So he's not here, but Gally is here with us. What's happening?
Just trucking along. Week 3 at the new job. Getting used to this hour-and-a-half commute one way a couple times a week. But it's going really good. I'm really enjoying the job. I'm enjoying the people I'm working with, which is what it was all about.
Are they enjoying you, more importantly, you think?
I mean, probably not, but they're telling me they are, and I'm only there a couple days a week. So, I'll ask the listeners, about how much do you think my new coworkers are enjoying working with me? Lie to me, please. I'll do trivia if you lie to me.
I mean, they basically deal with you about in the same frequency, 2 to 3 times a week. So if they can put up with you, why wouldn't your coworkers? At least they're getting paid to put up with you. So there's always that. So what's going on? Football talk in the house. Well, here's the good news. Bickler is not here. That's not the good news. But I am happy to announce that we are bringing back segments that I know that you really missed and you wanted to kind of like really get in over here. So let me pull this up and bring it on. The moment you see it, you're going to be so happy, so thrilled, because that's right, bitches. Trivia is back in the house. We did not do it for quite some time. One of the most popular segments of the show. See everybody jumping. See, look at that. Look at the audience jumping up and down with joy because we're doing trivia. And more importantly, BJ is back in action. So he's telling me he's giving some quality questions because I was kind of too lazy to come up with them week in and week out. So you guys got away with it for some time. And now, no Bickler, but, why not? Let's do it anyway. Look at this. Everybody is happy in the comments, just high-fiving each other, running around, waiting for trivia. Okay.
The best part about no Bickler is there's zero chance he will ruin this segment.
Yeah, if Bickler was here, he would. I mean, the question itself, I'm going to ask you now. Yeah, he would ask 15 different qualifiers. Like, is this Liverpool? Is this? Okay, here we go. As of match week 11 in the Premier League, we have conceded 6 goals. What is LFC's record for the fewest Premier League goals conceded by match week 11? Same time. And when, obviously.
It's a great question. I have no fucking clue.
And the answer is?
I could guess, okay? I'm going to tell you this right now. The rule of trivia is sometimes the most obvious answer is the one right in front of your damn face. And the answer is 6 goals in 2024 is the least amount.
I see what you did there.
I'm just saying, like, sometimes, like I once called a radio station, a sports radio show, and the question was, of the 4 times that the Steelers won the Super Bowl in a row in the 70s, how many times was Chuck Noll Coach of the Year? And you should know it isn't 2 or 3 or 4 because none of those are fun. It's 0. He was never voted Coach of the Year. But Steven Gerrard can't be the answer.
Brian knows. The default answer, if all else fails, is Steven Gerrard.
And I tried to dance there, but I'm going to say the record's 5 goals, and it's in like one of the early 80 seasons, but it was a complete asinine guess. I have no rhyme or reason to why.
Well, this is the thing, though. The Premier League started in 1992.
No. Oh, he said the Premier League.
The Premier League, yes. That's why the 4 goals that Cersei is pulling up is not working.
And my 5 goals in the 80s wouldn't have worked either. No. So I'm going to say it's this year.
No, good try. 5 goals in 18-19.
The title year.
I was actually shocked to hear because, we were talking about
a couple
in the morning show about how even though we were successful and we won, things were really exciting and happening, which meant also goals being conceded. So that's kind of like interesting. I think that's when we said, we finally figured out our defensive woes. and then it wasn't. But yes, the answer is 2018-2019 season. By match week 11, we had conceded only 5. In 07-08 matches this season, which is 6 goals in total, which, I mean, honestly, that's pretty darn amazing overall. This morning we were talking with Gordo about, like, like the first 11 weeks, this like post that Premier League it themselves, like through on the social media, and they were talking about like, which one do you think is the game of the so far or something like that. And normally in the past, they had like 10 or 11 games or something like that on there. Normally in the past, we would have at least 2-3 games on there. It'd be like us against Arsenal 4-2, or like just crazy scores. And not one Liverpool game was on there. I mean, do you like that aspect of it, or do you miss the excitement of it, I guess is the question.
This has been really exciting for me. I will take 10 wins, or 10 wins, or 9 wins, a draw, and a loss out of 11 matches as an exciting run of fixtures. Like, I'm excited about where the league is. I think it's really entertaining. I do understand when people miss the little bit of the helter skelter and the crazy fist pumps and the going nuts with the crowd late and the late winners. I still think those things are going to happen as time goes on, and we're going to have those moments. I just think that because we're playing a more controlled game doesn't mean it's a less enjoyable or exciting version of football. I still think it's really, really good brand of football. And I think because the league is so helter skelter, and because the league is so competitive and balanced for it, really kind of top to bottom, especially the top 10, I think it almost makes what we're doing even more impressive because it's so workmanlike that teams like City and Arsenal that are very respectable sides are having wobbles. And we have the same injuries, the same hiccups, and we have a new manager. And it's all working. And I think that's because of the control, maybe. Maybe that's because of the boringness.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with the boringness. Like Sergi says, don't miss the anxiety. That's for sure. My wife and kids like me more this season, says Sergi. I think we're on the same boat over there because I think I do watch games.
You like them better?
As calm as I can possibly get. The dogs, see, that's a different story because they can definitely they like the 3 points, the 3 snacks at the end, but the whole not a lot of goals, so therefore not a lot number of snacks is probably not their favorite. But they like to control that. I'm not suddenly yelling and screaming either. But like this was the graphic right here, by the way, that the Premier League put out, and you can kind of see. I mean, the teams that are in there multiple times are like Everton, Brighton, Brentford. I actually find it shocking that Everton is on there because you would think Sean Douche's thing would be more defending and there would be a lot of like 1-0, 0-0, 2-0 things. But because of how they defended, they've had like a lot of crazy scores. I'm okay with not being on there and not having crazy games and being a bit more controlled. And going back to what you're saying, I think we keep forgetting this, that on paper at least, right? This was supposed to be a rockier start and things are going to improve more as we go. The more Slot gets to work with the squad and the players, the better and more effective the system will get. So is that like super optimism, or should we be extremely happy that even in this era that was supposed to be learning stages, growing pains, if you will, I mean, we won almost every single freaking game, and he can't stop talking about the Forest game that we did not win. That bugs him that we did not win that one.
Yeah, it definitely is bothering him. He'll act like, oh, every match and the next match is the most important. And then he goes back to like, but there's that Forest match. It's like one game. Like we've had 15 or 16 matches and 3 competitions at this point. And he's hanging on a 1-0 match against Forest, which I do love because I think if we played Forest on Saturday at home at Anfield, I think we'd beat them. Because even in their form now, let alone where they were at then, I don't think they had hit as good of strides as they're playing right now, especially defensively. You asked, is it a positive? Is it like signs of things to come? I think it should be a real big positive for Liverpool supporters for how far along this club seems to already be. And I think it should really scare other Premier League teams supporters, especially the big clubs who it would absolutely destroy and kill to see us win with a brand new manager. Like it would destroy United fans, in my opinion, if this new guy comes in, wins the Premier League in his first year in the league, and establishes like we could have another special run coming. And I think the league thought we were going to take a step back. And I think that's why you heard pundits and the Gary Nevilles of the world say we would struggle to get near the Champions League this year. And now they're like, backing the bus up and you can hear the beeps all the way across the pond. I think we're going to get more and more of that because I think we're going to hit our stride, just like Schlott said, around December/January. And if this team can stay healthy and they can avoid the big drama at the club, whether that be unrest, players signing foreign deals, leaving, the contracts, I think there's a chance for something special here.
Yeah, I mean, I know for a fact they're kind of over the top devastated. I still get the narrative, and maybe that's them kind of trying to speak it into existence that, this is just a lucky run. This was not supposed to happen. It's going to go down. Whereas, well, I guess I'm the pessimist, but if an opponent that we're kind of like battling for a title race was going through this, I would be like, shit, they're winning now. They're only going to get better. How are we going to catch up? It's probably what I would think. If it was like Arsenal or something like that. I mean, these are established teams, but it was a team that had a new manager or something like that. Like, let's say if it was Chelsea, right? And if Chelsea was going on this run and we were behind them, I would say, and I think most of us would say, shit, they're getting all these points before, all the pieces are together. How the hell are we going to catch them as they keep getting better kind of thing? So I think there's a part of that. And I think the major disappointment comes. I mean, there were celebrations going last year around the league when Klopp said he's leaving. I mean, especially for like United fans and stuff like that, because I think they took that as, okay, they're not going to be relevant for a while again, kind of a deal. So the fact that not only we're relevant, it almost looks like we're better it devastates the hell out of them. And I'm sure they can't sleep at night. What I do like in terms of what we have done is the fact that though, maybe we found the right guy in terms of doing this. He talked about it, I think in the last post match, saying this is why he was probably brought here in the first place, because, this is how he likes to play and stuff. I think that's when he was going back and forth actually with Carragher after the Champions League game. That he does like the pressure up top and, the pressing and stuff like that. A lot of things are actually similar.
Yeah.
But I think what we've done by maybe not throwing in a bunch of new signings in there and stuff like that, in the grand scheme of things, perhaps has helped them. Or would he have done this either way, even if it would have been easy for him, even if there were 2-3 names?
I don't know. I think if he had bought 2 or 3 new names, I don't think they'd all be starting and playing. So you know what I mean? Like, I think this team was pretty much set. I think what he gets lucky on is we've talked about it for a long time, how there's good makeup on this team, but that they're also all professionals, right down to the young kids, to like what the process is like. And I think Klopp and his coaching staff, the former regimes, right, they deserve a lot of credit on that as well, because they help build that culture in that dressing room that ultimately every man steps up, whether Henderson's here, Milner's here, or now it's Van Dijk and Robertson, right? They play for each other and the players police the room. And I think when you bring in a guy like Schlott, I think it allowed these players to focus. And I think players like Curtis, I think Gakpo in some ways, because he's being told what his role is and how to focus. And I think Schlott has, I don't want to say dumbed it down, because that's not fair to his tactics, but I feel like he's taken everything, like even like that conversation we all saw online with Trent about like the inches and the angles and if you can get it a little bit more. And then Trent, like for 3 weeks in a row, tries to score on a corner in every match because the manager showed him you can score from these, attack the keeper. Just little things. I really did like that. I'm a big fan of how he's gone about the man management, and I think he's making these players better. And I think that's getting lost in all of this, is that some of these players didn't look this good the last 18 months under Jurgen Klopp. And that's not a shot at Klopp.
Yeah.
But there are guys that have taken steps forward. I think Jones is one. I think Gakpo is one. And I think Konate is won by a mile. Like, these are things that are working to these players. And I think part of that's the manager and part of it's the player and form and all the things that come with it.
Yeah, I mean, especially for like Konate and like the back line, I think playing it a bit more safe, especially for those center backs. We were talking about this is like the chicken and the egg thing, I think, with Gordo in one of the mornings where, like, do the center backs look good because the system gets them more help and they're not on an island, or like which one is the system helping the center backs helping the system, kind of a deal. But I think there's like something to be said about getting a new voice in there, right? Like, even if it's the same message, coming from a different voice always like makes a difference. And I think, to his credit, Slot talked about this a bunch of times where like the discipline was already there. It almost sounded like whenever I listened to him, he's actually shocked at the level of professionalism and discipline in the club. Because normally when you take a place over, that's when MRM is at like United right now, he has a lot of these disciplinary things to establish. These are when the meetings are. You got to be here in time for the meeting. You can't be late to this. You got to do this before the game and stuff. All those things that were probably not happening, he has to get those established. It sounds like Slots came in. Oh, okay, so we don't have to worry about any of this stuff. So we can work on this stuff instead because those were established. Having said that, though, I mean, I talked about this before, like during the management days. I've done like hostile takeovers, and I've done a couple of like where I've taken over for somebody who was like my very first like top gig was taking over for a guy who had been around forever and had let things go, but he had the reputation. So actually you're kind of like inheriting something that is not in good shape, but you have to kind of like improve it. The problem with that is the people who are working over there do not realize that stuff is in bad shape. When you do a hostile takeover and take over for a guy who got demoted or fired or whatever, everybody in that place knows that, hey, there will be changes made because things were obviously not going well. This kind of rid of. I would argue that the other one, what Slot has done, is a lot more difficult, where he's taken over a job where people consider that everything is going well. You got to take that, find the things that are not going well, and be able to improve on them.
Yeah, I actually think you're spot on. It's a good analogy. When you really think about it, yeah, it is retail. Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what it is.
Like Shelton and I always like have these like retail.
That is a retail PTSD. I was thinking to myself, it's as close to a retail to professional world class athletics analogy as we can get to on this program, but we do our best. But it makes a lot of sense because when you come in and you're just shaking, when you're basically coming in to just clean house and everybody knows it, whether that's the brand new head coach, we see it all the time in American sports, right? And, right around this time of the year, they start firing NFL coaches, or you start hearing about the coach that's going to be fired. And everybody knows that owner is not only going to fire the coach, they're going to fire all the coaching staff. And then the players are going to know it's going to be the opposite coach. If we had a player-friendly coach last time, now it's going to be a disciplinarian, or vice versa. When, an all-time great legend resigns or steps down or steps up into the front office, use like the Miami Heat, probably last example of it, when Pat Riley stepped down and Eric Spoelstra, which was like his 8-year assistant, stepped in. He had LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and these guys, like, he knew, like, well, I don't get to change how we do this, but I do need to make sure I put my authority and leadership into this. And it worked out for them. They won some titles. They got to finals. They progressed as a franchise. They got better. And I think that's the closest analogy I can think of. It's almost like similar to like what the Cowboys did when they got rid of Landry and brought in Jimmy Johnson. Like there's little times in sport where you see that soft turnover. There's more examples of David Moyes taking over for Alex Ferguson, or, any Real Madrid manager taking over for Carlo Ancelotti in a few years when he leaves. Like, there's a lot more examples of guys flaming out than there are Luis Enrique walking in for Pep and still winning La Liga twice in the first 3 years he's there. But he's a great manager. And I think we're starting to see that Schlott is probably a really, really, really good, if not great, football mind. And he just needed an opportunity. And I think we're very lucky that he got it here.
I think so too. I mean, obviously, small sample size, and we'll see, how. I mean, I think like starting with this, I mean, I guess let me ask you that. Do you think it starts with this transfer window where we do start seeing slot players, if you will? I mean, I realize he's the manager and whatever, like he's not in charge of transfers. We get all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's going to be, he's going to have a say in it in terms of, yep, that fits. Or he's the one who's saying, this is what I want. These are the requirements of a player I want for this position, that position, stuff like that. Do you think it kind of starts this January or not until summer where we kind of see him? Because I think part of the incomings of getting slot players is, whether we like it or not, is probably departure of some of the players that we've kind of like grown to love and we're going to have to say goodbye to.
Yeah, I think that the first thing that happens, I keep hearing and reading these reports that Liverpool's going to go for it this winter and open up the checkbooks and try to sign a couple players and refresh the squad. If Zubimendi is genuinely available to England in January, I could see the club coming in and making another bid, because I think the manager clearly identified that player as the guy he wanted for his midfield. And it was clear when they didn't get him and they walked away and they were like, we're not just going to sign a player to sign a player. We wanted that player. If that player is available in January and is willing to accept the transfer, I think Liverpool's going to go back in for him. Other than that, maybe the Kirkes kid at Bournemouth, if they have a fear he's going to get sold in January, if they don't buy him now, they'll miss out on him for the summer. Because it does feel like those links are really strong. We need an understudy long-term left back. He is a very, very highly rated young player. He won't stay at Bournemouth long. And the sporting director or guy ahead of transfers here at Liverpool is the guy who signed him at Bournemouth. So it kind of makes sense why we might.
You think that will be like sign him now and then we'll get him next year kind of deal, though? Because you're not going to bring him, and you're not going to move Robertson or Costas in January, I don't think.
It could be a sign and leave him to loan him the rest of the season to Bournemouth. It could be a sign you bring him in, you let him train, and he just doesn't really play much. I don't think. The
concern I have with that is, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I have with that is you have to bear in mind, that's why, this is a big question, I think, the January or the summer one, because you don't want to mess with the team. You don't want to bring a guy, like you don't want to buy a guy and say, okay, he's coming next year, because then you have two left backs over here just waiting to see who's on the chopping block. You know what I mean? Like, and you don't want to put that in the locker room, because both Robertson and Costas, which that's how Costas stays in the squad by, like buddying up and serving coffee to Mo and stuff. I mean, at that point, like, I feel like it would negatively impact the rest of the squad. I guess that's the only concern I have with sign and we'll see you later kind of a deal.
And maybe I might even be wrong. Maybe they'll get word from Bournemouth they're going to keep him because they're going to push for a European place, because Bournemouth, with a couple of results going their way, could be a top half of the side team. I just think that there's this world where January to me feels like there's going to be a lot of bluster, a lot of talk, but I'm with you. I think it's next summer when we really make some squad changes, because I think by next summer we understand, are we trying to replace Mo? Are we trying to replace Virgil? What's happening with Trent? I think the squad really changes itself once you have a better idea. Yeah. I still feel like, I don't know why, I still feel like Virgil's contract will be the first one to get sorted. Maybe even, I'm hoping this week, before we get back to playing Southampton. Like, it would be great.
That's why he got sent home?
Well, I was hoping there might be that type of a mentality. They have nothing to play for. They qualified to move forward, so it's not like he needs to be there. If he could finish his contract, that's one thing. obviously the Mo thing is just weird to me because until I see him get close to signing a deal, I just don't believe it's going to happen. And Trent, I'm just confused because I don't know what the player wants because I see him talk and it sounds like I want to play for Liverpool for the rest of my life. And then I watch him on the pitch and I read the newspapers and it's like he's already living in Madrid and he just got a world-renowned model girlfriend and she has a house in Madrid and all this new stuff. Like every day it's a new
Oh, I'm not even like, wow, you're
tabloid-driven
really
story.
keeping up with this shit. I mean, I
Well,
think with him, from what like the rumors are, some of the wage expectations are kind of out of whack, especially out of whack for a right back. Especially out of whack for a right back that potentially probably does not even fit the system, really, if you think about it. I mean, we're trying to make the most of it in terms of it because of his skill set. You want to use that skill set, you want to make it work. But I mean, ultimately, I don't, like I say, I don't see the system. It's not like club system where it's very requiring of like these bombing right backs and left backs and stuff like that. I mean, Slot can say, no, I'm good, man. I'll spend 20 million on this left back. Give me that money for, this midfield person or something like that. Because it feels like, especially the midfield and up top are more important in the setup because they really do actually protect the back, not just by press, but by positioning, they protect the back.
Yeah, I actually think that we've talked about it. The more you watch this play out, the fullbacks are probably like, in the overall pecking order, the fullbacks are towards the bottom, not the top, like they were in the Klopp system, where that made Robertson and Alexander Arnold, household names and world class or top of their class players. I'll ask you this question. Real Madrid calls on January 1st and says, hey, just so you know, we're going to sign your young Scouser in the summer, or we'll give you 25 million right now. Would you take the money in January? Would you take a fee in January just to secure money for the asset you're going to lose for free? If you're in that boat where you don't believe he's part of the long-term plans, you're not going to give him the 400K a week he wants to be a right back. Would you take the money, or would you?
Is he leaving? I'm taking the money and he's leaving in January?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're getting a fee and you're just moving forward. You're doing this.
Yeah. You're getting something and you have time to fill the spot. And I do feel like you have players in the squad that can fill the spot until you get the person that you want to get, maybe. And I would think right now, I mean, these are the conversations that are happening. Like, they do have certain players that they're like, yeah, like, this is the kind of right back. This is the right back we have in mind. If it's like Karakaskid on the left, this is Robertson, by the way, did get a goal in the last minutes of the game. Huge goal. I'm sure the Polish prince is not happy about it, but so that's good for him. I mean, Bradley scored. It's been a good international break overall in terms of a lot of confidence boosters for these guys, and some of them didn't even go, some of them coming in early, so it's not been as damaging of a international break, knock on wood, so nothing happens tomorrow or something like that. But I honestly do think, though, this January is going to be more about, unless there's an injury that we have to react to, I really do feel it's just going to be, like you said, maybe a guy like Zubimendi or somebody like that is available that we want, regardless of the fee. We go get him. I don't think you make a lot of moves. I agree with you. I hear it a lot. Like, they're going to go all in. And I don't even know if going all in is the right move. People don't realize that this is not FIFA. When you slide the new guy over the old guy and dump the guy down, now you have to deal with the morale of the guy that you dumped down and all the people around them and all the people on the squad. It's not like there's a lot of psychology and team management behind the scenes.
And they keep saying they want to get Nioni some end of game minutes if they can get him on the bench for a match. They want to get him in the cup games. They want to play him in some dead rubbers if they can earn the right to do it. They're talking now about how Dan's is just about back to full training and how the manager really likes him and he's in the senior setup. So now you're adding us, maybe you're replacing Chiesa. Now maybe he ends up going in January and we never get to see the Italian who loved being in Liverpool so much, He got 72 minutes and one shot on goal. It went off the frame, and then they raised the offside flag, and we were all like, "Ooh, what could be? Look at that volley." And maybe he can't keep up with the physicality, and maybe it's all smoke and mirrors. Seems like there might be a little bit of fire to the rumors that like the Italian clubs are sniffing around. It kind of seems like he might feel like he can't make it in England, and that's why these clubs are coming in for loan deals. So maybe there's a need for an attacker up top, but I don't see them upsetting this apple cart between now and January 1st if there's not a massive injury or something that forces their hand. If Kanate or Van Dijk went down, you'd have to go make a move. Because I don't think you'd be comfortable with just Kwanzaa and Gomez as your cover for the rest of the year, right? Like I think you'd go buy a center back. But I think as long as things keep going the way they are and we are able to rotate a little bit, I think it's the summer where the 3 to 4 new signings come in, but also 2-3 players depart. And I think that's, to your point, is probably the more key story is who are those players and how will this supporters and group and base do when those players are players they don't want to leave.
I think that's why it's interesting how the season unfolds. If you win the title, you can send the entire starting 11 and people will be fine, right? But if you're close, people are going to be like, we needed to add, not subtract, is going to be the mindset. And I think it will be taken totally differently. So winning the title really helps him even build a better squad in that sense. Because I guarantee you there will be people that he's probably thinking of, it's not going to work. Still might be playing. And we might be like, well, we think he's doing good, but it doesn't matter what we think. It's ultimately what he thinks. And he's like, yeah, good, but not fitting the system. Could be a lot better if this guy was there, kind of a deal. So I think in summer, we are going to lose some people. And that's another reason not to do this in January, by the way, just because when something goes down in a game, whoever you get rid of is the guy who's going to be needed to make things better. Like if you lose, if the Forest game happens like match week, 24 or something like that, and we happen to sell Chiesa, everybody would be like, if Chiesa was here, you could have put him in the 70th minutes, he would have gotten the goal and stuff. So whoever leaves will be the one to fall. That's why I don't expect a lot to be happening in January, unless, like you're saying, we're reaction to an injury that we need to fill. Or there's this player that we really wanted. This is the time. But I think like Shelton was saying, it's that, it's hard to fill spots with it. I mean, January, usually you're not getting a lot of good deals. This is not like the trade line over here in the US. I think people kind of confuse January with that. It's far from it in terms of what you can get, because it's not like over here. People can't say I'm rebuilding. People are trying to not really get relegated and shit. So they can't just move all their assets and stuff like that because there's something you might pay for it otherwise.
I think the best guys to look for, and I think you get gems in January. I genuinely do. Like you have to gamble because a lot of times they're not players. Like if you think of a couple of the January moves Liverpool have made over the years that really, I mean, let's take Van Dijk out of it. We should have got him in the summer. We screwed up the negotiation, so we got him on January.
What negotiation? We never talked to them. What are you talking about?
That was Southampton being like, go bleep yourself, right? Like we know what it was. But I mean, Sturridge, brilliant January signing. I mean, that one showed up at the end of January. You're like, huh. Diaz, we jumped, we pipped. Spurs thought they had the deal set for the summer. He comes to Liverpool at the end of the January transfer window.
Was Diaz's contract going to be up at the end of the season?
No, he had one more year, but they knew he was going. And then the other one is obviously Coutinho, another big January one. And then, of course, Suarez, and of course, Andy Carroll didn't work out so well. But these are some big January moves. But those were all, other than Suarez, I think those were all kind of gambles. Sturridge was a gamble. He had flamed out at 2 different big clubs in City and Chelsea. Coutinho was supposed to be the next thing at Inter, and it never really worked out for him. And then he came to us, and he lit the world on fire, basically, from match 1 or 2. and everybody took to him and loved him and then overrated him for 6 seasons. I just think that when you're in those markets, you do a little gambling. So I think if you look at the last couple winters, right, you've had Adam Wharton go to Crystal Palace.
Yep.
You had Morgan Rogers go to Aston Villa. Those were guys coming out of the championship at mid-table championship clubs, not worried about being relegated, not fighting promotion. I think that's the type of gamble. So, like, if Liverpool saw a diamond in the rough, would I love them going out and spending 20, even 30 million on them? Pluck a young midfielder out of the championship that you think is going to be an absolute stud in years to come? Like, I would love that type of a move. Other than that, I don't see them doing it. And to your point, that doesn't upset the squad because you're buying a championship player who isn't supposed to come in and start or play right away. His job is to just become part of the club and not be a hologram that sits on, up in the crowd.
I think, you got to find situations, and that's why you have a scouting department, and that's why you have like Hughes and those guys doing the work. And that's why they should be the one doing the work, not Slot. You got to find teams, first of all, in that situation, like you're talking about. They don't have the chance of relegation because they don't want to face unless the guy's contract is done at the end of the season, which then you could argue, why do we spend money in January? Let's just wait till the off season kind of a deal, right? But I think more importantly, it has to be somebody, perhaps a slight misfit, or they feel like there is somebody they can replace them with, and it's time to cash in. Because there is something to, sell while the stock is high as well for clubs. Because there are players where we were just talking about it the other day about it. Like one of our players were like, if we sold them then, kind of an ordeal. And we did. Oh, Nat Phillips is like a good example, right? Like there was a time where everybody and their brother was willing to pay and get Nat Phillips to put his head in everywhere and clear balls and stuff. Now, I don't know where the heck he's still around somewhere there, right? I don't know where he's at right now. He's on the squad still though, right? Our squad, but I don't know what his like value is right now. It has diminished big time. So there's something to be said about selling at the right time for these clubs to get the most out of him before he gets injured in the second part of the season, his form drops in the second part of the season and stuff like that. I mean, we were talking about it the other morning about like Kelleher, for example, 25 in summer sounded like, are they asking for a lot? They're kind of sandbagging this kid kind of a thing. Well, now 25 sounds like a really good deal, doesn't it, for a Premier League club that is looking for a goalie?
Yeah, and I think we'll end up getting somewhere between 25 and 30 for him by the time it ends up probably being all said and done. If he goes, I'm starting to get like more and more. There's part of me that thinks more and more that like maybe they just bought this guy, Mamadashvili. Like they literally bought him like an investment coin. Like they were like, yeah, you know what? Bitcoin always goes up. So we're just going to buy this one and we're going to sell it for 1.75 in 2 years. Like, because I keep reading these articles and seeing other like ex-coaches and scouts be like, this isn't anything that this guy doesn't do any of the things that they want a keeper to do.
That's what's so shocking. Like, it's like, what?
So, but maybe that was like a Hughes and them saying like, we were going to buy this guy at Bournemouth because we thought we could sell him for 100 million to Bayern when it's time for Neuer to go. So we'll loan him around Europe for a couple of years like he's freaking Courtois until Real Madrid finally. I mean, Courtois played for what, 2 teams in the Dutch league. Then he played for Atletico Madrid. Then he went back to Chelsea. Then he ended up getting sold to Real Madrid. I mean,
I'll tell you right now. Yeah, I mean, Chelsea. He went to Atletico Madrid
on loan.
Yeah, for a long time actually. Then from there he went to Real, and he was he was a Chelsea player from like 11 to 18, but the first 3 seasons he spent it, and then before then he was obviously in Belgium.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not like, I'm just using an example of like that's a prime example, and I don't blame Chelsea at the time. Petr Cech was twice the keeper that Courtois was. He just eventually earned his, eventually Petr Cech finally got old and couldn't be the keeper anymore. I mean, for the longest time, in my opinion, he was the best keeper in the Premier League, if not the best, one of the best. Petr Cech, he was up there. Other than the stupid hat. And I understand his head got broken, and I get it. You crush your head, but there's just something about that. He just looked like he looked like he was the guy cutting someone's head off in Braveheart. And that always irritated me. Like he looked like one of those people, and it just always pissed me off. And then when he would take the hat off and you'd see him get interviewed after, he looked totally different. I was like,
who looks like dude?
He's just a normal dude from Europe. I always thought he was like a skinhead. I just immediately assumed that he was just like this terrible, awful person. But
a couple of names being thrown around. Brian Shelton is really rooting for Cherky. Cherky, is that what his name is?
His name has come up a lot, and that makes me know that he'll never get signed by us because he showed up.
The only reason his name is coming up is because of the Trub, like Olympic Lyonism. And so everybody's kind of like going through, like, they're like, what do they have? We don't want Lacazette, so I guess we'll take this guy kind of a deal. I mean, I think it just basically ends up being a deal. I just don't know if he fits just because he seems like more like a Carvalho type of player, like an attacking midfielder that is not too interested in defending. From like, I've only watched him a couple of times in like the Europa or Conference League or wherever it was. So it's not like I watch a lot of League One. But from what I've seen, that's like the impression I have of him as a player. I could be wrong. This one that Aslog is bringing up, the Marmoush talks, and I mean, Anan on Fridays, who obviously is tightly connected to the Egyptian media. No, all joking aside, obviously he follows because he knows the language. He follows a lot of like the news sources and stuff like that over there. See, here's the thing. So there is some legitimacy to those news. There was like that video out that he talks about forever, and like Mo will that be a thing for Mo to stick around to, his buddy coming over and stuff like that? That's another chapter of the thing. But here's the thing, I don't know. I can tell you guys right now, I don't know how the Egyptian media is, but if it's anything like the Turkish media, I wouldn't believe a shit they say because they're just like pulling it out of their butt to get it on the papers. So I don't know how much truth there is to it. I find that player a little bit better of a fit as opposed to like the Turkey guy. Who is U.S. playing, by the way? I keep getting score updates.
They're playing. U.S. is playing Jamaica in the second leg of their Nations League quarterfinal.
Okay.
So they won the first leg 1-0 in Jamaica. And it wasn't a great match, but they got the win. And then today they're playing at home in St. Louis. And clearly, I'm not watching the match, but clearly it's been a good first 45 minutes. If they're up 3-0, Pulisic has a brace. Sounds like one or two of the goals were really impressive. And now another player who's been linked to us in the last few weeks, or in the last week, is the American striker Pepe, which is the 20-year-old. He's at PSV Eindhoven. He's playing really, really well. He's scoring goals in the Champions League. He's had a great season. He originally got sold to a club in Germany. I think it was Union Berlin. Didn't work out so well for him at his first stop in Germany. And then when he went to PSV, it was a loan move and they made it permanent. He's very good. He's a 21-year-old striker. And it doesn't surprise me that he's the type of player I'm fine with us being linked with, to be honest. If we're going to be linked with American players, can they be young players with like young...
You're not liking the Pulisic and his...
You know me, I don't hate it only because I think he's starting to earn his way into the conversation of being one of the best right wings. I mean, what he's done at his time in Milan and for the U.S. national team at this point on the right and the left, it's pretty impressive. I mean,
do you think though there's a reason why it's working in Serie A and didn't work in the Premier League?
I think there is, but I also, just like I question what would have happened if Timo Werner's first stop at the Premier League isn't in Chelsea, I don't think Pulisic could make it at Chelsea. Like, I think if Pulisic had gone to West Ham, he might have got a move to United or Arsenal. I genuinely do. Because I think
it's possible because, like I say, sometimes it's all about the situation you're in.
when I watch Christian Pulisic, he doesn't look any different than Jared Bowen to me. He looks like a guy with pace, a guy who likes to take a guy on, a guy who can score a good goal, create a goal, works hard for his team. I also think he's a guy who's maybe a little softer than Bowen, and that's where he needed to beef up. But I also think he's gotten stronger because, I mean, that guy gets absolutely mauled for the U.S. men's national team. He's treated like their superstar. He's kicked, they step on, and he never loses it. He never asks off the pitch. He plays every minute. I was never a big Christian Pulisic fan. I've come full circle with him because I feel like he's actually stepped up for the United States men's national team. And I think you see it on nights like tonight. And I think you're starting to see why it's good to have Pochettino there. It's going to make players.
Yeah, I think I'll be
lot
sold
better.
more when it's not against Jamaica. If that's, you know what I mean? You can only
get
play
it.
the guy you're facing, I guess. But I think, the test is when they're taking on bigger teams,
100%.
that's the time to show up and stuff. I mean, hey, I don't root for a lot of Turkish guys to be joined because it's nothing but hell usually. But I did want Arda over here, which obviously didn't happen. I thought it would be like a great deal at the time for the price because you could have turned around and sold him now, even if you didn't play him, even if you didn't hit the Premier League. I did root a lot for Ferdi to come over, which he went to Brighton. And we've seen him. That kid could have been go. And, he still could go somewhere from there. I just don't know if he's going to be physically able to. And then obviously Kenan at Juventus, which I don't know, Juventus will sell him. I mean, he's like Juventus's number 10. I think he's only like 18 or 19 or something crazy like that. So I usually don't do a lot of, bring this Turkish guy over here because I'm going to hear about it anytime he fucking makes a bad pass or some shit. That's how it's going to go. I know it already. But, okay, real quick. I'm obviously... we have the whole week to go and talk about the fixtures and stuff. But, we were talking on Discord and Kazi wants me to sit, get us on the parade bus. He's already sitting there waiting for it to take off. He's already gotten us like winning the title by so many points. I am not totally sold yet. But let me ask you this, because I feel like, and I was telling him today, actually, right before we went on air, that if we beat City, we beat Southampton, and we beat City, I might start walking towards the bus and see. He says there's no empty seat, but he'll move his butt over. I'll sit over there. But I might do that. When is it that you will start getting? Because I know you're kind of like, the pessimist mold in some ways too. But when do you start getting giddy? When does the giddy galley come out?
Yeah. So giddy. I mean, it could be here real quick. I mean, it could be here by December 1st. I'm not going to lie. And part of this is it comes down to what these results are. So let's assume we take care of business against Southampton on the weekend.
Which is a tricky fixture because I think every single person right now is acting like that's not even there, which really worries the fuck out of me because that's how I roll. But that kind of worries me because everybody's talking like that fixture is not there. They're like, we got Real, we got nobody is counting Southampton.
No, I'm with you. You gotta. I mean, this is a team that has played teams tough. City beat them 1-0, scored 5 minutes into the match, couldn't score again. So they can be resound. I think we'll take care of business there because I think they'll go out and I think they'll know what they need by then. And I think that's a big thing as well. Look, if City were to drop any points to Spurs, and then we go up against City in a City team that at that point would need a victory against us, really to have any chance of staying within 10. If we can get to 8-10 points come December 1st, I think at that point, with this quality of squad, you start to talk about you blew this lead. If you lose that at 10 points and you beat them in your home building, you should feel confident to say, we should win the league. We're going to win the league. What I hate is you have to leave that City game and you have to go play at Newcastle. And then you have to play at Goodison on a short week. Because I was listening to, I think it was the Anfield Rap did something this week where they talked about each team's next 4 fixtures and how many points they expect every team to get. And like some of the people expected Liverpool to get like 8. And one of them was calling for a victory over City and draws against both Everton and Newcastle because It's a brutal fixture to go up to St. James's Park. And this is the last time this club's ever going to play at Goodison. And it's not for all the jokes, because next year they're going to be in a new stadium. And anyone who doesn't think that those fucking blue-nosed shites aren't going to be up for that game with some of that douchery fucking like shit, with his freaking, low blocks, he might play 15 behind the ball if they can. I genuinely really think, like, we're talking so much about City. There's a world where we get 6 points against City and Southampton, and we still get out of the Everton match, and we're not overly ecstatic about it. So to me, it's like those other fixtures, the ones you brought up on the screen, the ones down the road in December, they're the ones that make me more nervous. Fulham, Newcastle.
See, I agree with you on the Newcastle and the Everton away. I mean, Newcastle away is always tough, and Everton is Everton. It's the Merseyside derby. It doesn't matter. You throw the form out the window, which is true. Like, whenever something like this happens, because there's a lot more emotion and everything else going into the game. So I get all that. Those are really tough fixtures. But I think if we beat City, and you take care of business in Southampton, and you beat City, regardless, you're up by 8 points now. I think you're in pretty good shape, because as we keep going, I just don't think, like, I know what you say about Fulham and stuff. I trust this team a bit more in terms of, not totally flopping in those games. And I know everybody's going to be like, well, about the Forest game and stuff like that. But we're finding out right now that Forest is pretty darn good. But you look at like Leicester City, West Ham and stuff like that. I feel like, those are games that, I don't know, like I say, if you beat City, I'm starting walking towards the bus. If then we get the wins towards Newcastle and Everton, if we get 10 out of these next 4 fixtures, I'm getting on the bus.
If we get 10 out of those next 4 fixtures, even if it's a draw against City, there's no excuse but to go take a run at it and feel confident about it. If you get 10 out of those 4 fixtures and 3 of those are a victory against City, you're not only the betting favorite, you have to believe you're the favorite.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to play like it. Because the one thing we do know is Kevin De Bruyne will get back. Erling Haaland will start scoring goals again. Phil Foden will get fit. And that team will rip off 15 victories in a row in the Premier League at some point between now and the end of the year. And for me, that's an important factor too. We just need to keep the foot down on the gas, in my opinion.
I'll tell you what, though, man. You look at their schedule over here, especially the Spurs were away. But Spurs, the way Spurs plays, could give them fits.
100%.
I can see Spurs scoring in bunches against City. Will they be able to defend? That's another story. But I think they will score in bunches against them. And then, obviously, they go away. Forest, we know, can play you tough wherever they go. They've given every single big team fits. And then Crystal Palace is a freaking hell away game to go to. And then they have the United game. And I know we joke about United, but this is coming at a good time over here. It'll be like Amarim, the new manager smell still on there and stuff like that. And that's why I feel like if we do get 10 out of those 4 games, yeah, I'm getting on the bus and, I'm taking my seat next to Kazi over there, and then we'll see where it goes. Because I really do think, I think you're right. If we do not win after you get 10 out of 12 here, and I don't care everybody's like, well, it's the first half of the season. It's like, you're pretty much almost done with the first half of the season. It'll be week 15, like 15 matches in, right? And I think I would have considered us to kind of almost like choke it away if you lost it at that point, regardless of what Arsenal does, because you're already 8 points ahead of 8 or 9. Is it 8?
I think it's 9.
How irrelevant they are to me. Let's see over here. 9 points. So you're already ahead of them 9 points. Even if they get 12 out of 12, you're still, after this batch, you're still 7 points ahead of them. So, then I would. So we're getting the Giddy Galley 10 out of 12?
Yeah, we're definitely getting Giddy Galley 10 out of 12. If we got 12 out of 12, who knows? I might show up to the podcast naked. Not going to lie.
Whoa. If we get 10 out of 12, whoa. Say that again. That kind
I
of
said 12
so
out
we
of
can go
12.
back.
I said if we get 12 out of 12, I might just show up to the podcast naked.
You heard it here first. So tune in for that one.
Everybody's now rooting for 10 out of 12.
Everybody hoping for a draw against Everton if you get the first 9. Yeah, I mean, that will be huge. We could have an all-naked trio on Monday night if that happens, if you get 12 out of 12. What is your forecast? I mean, very early forecast for the Southampton game. I mean, knowing the Real game is midweek, but knowing we won everything, do you go just full force on both of these league matches? We know he doesn't do that much rotation, mind you, but do you go full force against Southampton, obviously coming from the international break?
Yes, I think I would have one eye on Real Madrid as far as like if there was a matchup between Curtis Jones and Szoboszlai that I love, like I need Szoboszlai's running ability against Madrid to combat the midfield and the power that they have, right? I start Jones. And I think I'd probably start Jones anyways off his 2 good performances for Liverpool and his 2 really good performances in his first ever starts for England, including a goal. Like, I think with that you reward him. He starts against Southampton. It makes total sense. You play Szoboszlai. Like that's my kind of like flip flop. Okay. I think if I don't know when Diaz is coming back in, I might start Gakpo on the left wing against Southampton and Diaz against Madrid. And I probably want Diaz attacking Danny Ceballos at the right back position when I play Madrid at home. To be honest, the Madrid game to me isn't as important as Southampton. For me,
I agree.
I am 100% Southampton. We have given ourselves the ability to draw or lose to Madrid. If we beat Madrid, we've almost qualified in the top 8, and we can almost guarantee we're going to qualify 1 to 4 if we even get a result against Girona, let alone beating PSV and can't remember the last one. Sorry.
I mean, we can afford it. I mean, I agree with Brian. I mean, like you're saying, I'm couldn't really. That was the big thing about the Leverkusen game for me. By beating Leverkusen, you kind of basically made this kind of like a rubber game, if you will, and you're like, whatever happens, happens. So I would rotate to think of the weekend. I know it sounds odd to say because it's a Champions League and it's against Real and stuff like that, but I really don't care. You have it in the bag by winning the first 4 games. Use what you earned because you earned the position you're in right now. Use that, and then we talked about if you want to see Gally naked on a podcast, you got to go full force on the weekends. And, Lille is the other one. Yes. I mean, both teams like that. And it's not like, oh my God, the rest of the fixtures are really difficult. You are going to get points from those. I mean, I know nothing is guaranteed in soccer, but you are going to get something from those games. So, focus on the league. So Colombia is playing tomorrow. So might be too late for that one, and you might get. But I think Netherlands is playing tomorrow too. But obviously, he's coming from Netherlands as opposed to coming from Colombia. So maybe you do see Gakpo starting against Southampton, and then Diaz.
Either one, I'd be fine. I think you'll probably see Nunez obviously play at least in the Southampton match. I think he'll start. I don't know where Jota is yet if he's going to be fit for either of those matches. I just think what it comes down to is go to Southampton, start your best team, put the game to bed if you can in the first half. Be up 2-0, be up 3-0, right? Score a couple goals, get Mo out on 55 minutes.
Have him pout.
He can pout, he can whine, but I mean, I'd get Kwanzaa on for a 30-minute run out in the second half. I get Kanate off the pitch, but you start your best team to go win you the 3 points in the league. Because to me, the only way you're putting the pressure on City, come December 1st at Anfield in that crucial clash, is if you beat Southampton and you extend your lead over them and Arsenal, regardless of what they do this weekend.
Yeah.
And I think there's a chance Spurs can get a result against City, especially a wounded City playing the way they are right now. I think this is the perfect team for a team like Spurs to play.
Yes.
If it was Ipswich, I'd be like, they're going to lose again. City, I'm like, they got a good chance for a 3-1 win.
Yes. I think that's like, it almost came right at this good time too, right? Time to show yourself, kind of an ordeal. Arsenal is playing home to Forest, so there's a chance that you're going into that game on Sunday knowing one or both of them lost points again. We thought it wouldn't happen back-to-back weekends. Yes, you can already start taking the shirt off, baby. It's just like we'll put our poor music on that Mecca plays, and then we'll get into action. And then we'll lose our ratings for good.
Yeah,
we're trying to get it to 1,000. Then we'll definitely not get there. But until then, do subscribe to the channel if you can. We're at 973, I think, last I checked. So 27 away. Let us get to 1,000, and then we'll go downhill. We'll take the clothes off and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, let's hope we take care of business against Southampton first. This could be the year. Tentatively, start walking towards the bus, everybody. Kazi's waiting for you guys. Have an excellent week, everybody. Hopefully next week we'll grab Bickler over here too. And then we'll be talking about a win against Southampton.